Hello everyone, back again. I'm going to do an NXT WWE Halloween Havoc review on at least what I saw of it. It seemed like a really good show. They seem to really be going in certain directions that I'm really liking and things that are starting to make some sense. So, there's some people that don't really like NXT. I've liked it really since the last 3 years or so, and I think it's the most easy show to really sit through as opposed to like a Raw or SmackDown when it's the same people, it's the same storylines, the same like dragged out stuff and whatnot. I just think that Shawn Michaels and that crew over there is doing a lot better than Triple H does on Raw and so forth. So yeah, there's a lot that happened. I guess I'll spoil it here. Bubba Ray Dudley made an appearance at the end of the show. I won't explain what happened at the moment. I'll save that for last. This might be a bit out of order. Honestly, mind you, I didn't watch everything about it. I didn't get the chance to have time to do that. I just wanted to get this out as quickly as possible and kind of go from there. So the first thing that stuck out was the Kalani Jordan match was for the Women's North American Championship. She was defending against 3 women in a gauntlet match, which means she had to win one, and then a second, and then a third if she got that far. So I believe the rule was if she got pinned by whoever, either first or second person, or third, she would lose the title. So she got through the first person, who I forget if it was either JC Jane or Jasmine Nix. It was one. Those two went for 1 and 2, and they both lost. You got Kalani Jordan, who does the split-legged moonsault. Rob Van Dam does, and she does the like the jump onto the top rope, like how Rob Van Dam did. He kind of did like a twist, like he would jump up, twist in the air, and land on the top rope type thing. Especially when he did like the frog splash or the kick and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of what she did. I've seen her before. I've seen really all of them before in some degree. So yeah, I was definitely liking what I saw in the ring. I was liking, obviously they were all looking fantastic, all beautiful women. Yeah, they were wearing great outfits. Yeah, just a fun match to sit through. I'm going to go into the other women's match at some point tonight as well in this review, as long as this camera stays recording and whatnot. I got a little bit of, background video instead of audio is the word I'm trying to think of. So, I do believe after, well, actually, I don't think I finished the match. So, Fallon Henley was the third person, and she ended up beating out, Kalani Jordan for the title. So I'm a big fan of that, just to see what they're going to do. Fallon, any of the 3 never had championships really, but Fallon, I don't even know if she won the tag titles. At least JC Jane won the tag titles at one point, at least once. So I like it. We'll see where they go with it for sure. We got this new lady, Zarya. Apparently she was known as Delta in Australia, and I guess she does like power moves and whatnot. And she ended up she knocked 2 of them out when her music came, and they were like looking like, where's she at? Where's she? Come on out or whatever. And they were trying to be prepared, and then they got attacked. Took 2 of them out, and then F5 the other. I'm assuming she probably F5 the champion, which would be Fallon Henley. I could be wrong. I watched it, but I can't remember if she F5'd Fallon Henley or not. That would have made the most sense if they didn't do it, but if they did, yeah, I would have said that makes perfect sense. So yeah, a big fan of that match. I was much more interested in the multiple women's match than that flippy tag team match that they always do, where they have Axiom and Nathan Fraser always like defending the titles, and they're pretty much going to win. It's like always for the tag titles. It's like they only have one mindset of it. Like, I get it. They're probably going to go to the main roster at some point. You're getting people used to them and whatnot. But, I mean, that's like the staple of it. And some people are like, oh, man, they're just such a great team and whatnot. I'm like, I've seen this so many times. Like, do something a little different. Do something from the past that people haven't seen. I mean, if you've only watched wrestling recently, you've seen a million matches that look like an Axiom and Nathan Fraser tag match. You got Motor City Machine Guns now. You got DIY. You got the Young Bucks in AEW. You've got, I mean, everybody in AEW, WWE, NXT, and elsewhere, I'm sure, is the same way. It's like they have to do the most flips and the most strikes and stuff like that are just like redundant. Like they stand in the middle of the ring and punch each other, and it devalues the moves and whatnot. They don't even, obviously people say, well, they're not actually hitting each other and whatnot. Well, sometimes they actually do hit each other just to prove a point, and it's just ridiculous, really. There's really no other way of saying it. It's just kind of like, why are you doing such nonsense? But anywho, I didn't like a lot of that stuff, but I did like this card. We have, after that, at some point in the show, we had Lexis King and William Regal. I wasn't going to go into this one right here next, so I'm remembering off the top of my head right as I was thinking about saying another thing, so don't mind me here. I've got where Lexis King is being interviewed. He's trying to go for the Heritage Cup Championship, which I do believe is being held still by William Regal's son, which is Charlie Dempsey. So he's doing an interview. He says, "Oh, I can't get any help, blah, blah, blah." He's like this character who like doesn't have friends and so forth. So I liked where they were going there. And then William Regal pops in. He says, "I'll be your manager or whatever, your corner man. I'll be your one-time manager or whatever," more or less what he's saying. So I was a big fan of what they did there. I thought that made a lot of sense. I thought that was going to be something that they're going to do well in the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I think that'll turn out pretty well. I'm trying to avoid the women's tag until the end, either the end or second to last. So that's pretty much what happened in that segment. There wasn't a whole lot more to say about that one. Then we had the then we had excuse me here. We had the Ridge Holland versus Andre Chase ambulance match, and I've been a big fan of Andre Chase and Chase U since they made their little storyline from they made their stable and whatnot. It really feels like it kicked off a lot more in ring, like it mattering more when they brought Thea Hale in. And then recently, I'd say, I don't know if it's been 6 months, a year, how long, they've had Ridge Holland on there, and they pretty much put him in there just so he would turn on him, turn him heel, make him look like the bad guy against basically the likable baby faces, all that type stuff. And of course, you got like the Chase U segments where he gets mad and starts cussing at people. It's kind of funny. It's like that's so random and whatnot. And that was Andre Chase was the guy I tried casting myself as on NXT. I thought that was pretty funny. Like that I could see that. So from there, basically they set up an ambulance match, and they've done through the year, like through recently. Excuse me, not through the years. They've done recently where, like the team's so upset that he turned on them and that type stuff. I thought they did a really good job on really explaining that kind of stuff, like making the characters actually like upset at what happened and so forth, instead of just being like, okay, we're gonna have a match tonight and it's gonna be a great match and we're gonna do flips and we're gonna do no selling and we're going to not show any character or charisma or any storyline whatsoever. So, yeah, I liked it. I like that they built this up a little bit. And then from there, they did... What did they do? The ambulance match. So, I pretty much saw that Ridge Holland ended up winning. And he was really being a heel, which it was really nice. I remember him back in the day. I thought he just looked like a big-time star. He could definitely turn into something if he was booked well. So hopefully they stick with it, and he turns out to be something pretty good. I listened to, I think, like one full review, and I was on 2x speed, but I think I got the gist of what was going on as well, some opinions. They didn't really like it because they thought that it was just like Ridge Holland defeating everybody. I'm like, well, that's how you build people up. Like, I don't understand. Maybe you just don't like the guy or whatnot, but you can't say that it doesn't make any sense. And then there's another match I didn't even think of at the moment, but I'll get into that. So I've got 3 more matches at least, and I'm trying to not necessarily be too slow on it, but not too fast. So I think I covered everything about that we needed to see. Definitely makes Ridge Holland look like he could go for either the mid-card championship that Tony D'Angelo had going into the show, or he could go after the world title against Trick Williams. So they have to be really careful here what they want to do, because if they're going to lose, if they're going to give him this win and whatnot, make him look strong, you got to stick with it. Like, eventually he's got to win that title. He's got to win the world title or the mid-card title. And you can kind of tell because they'll have like the face win the title, and then a heel wins to build him up and whatnot. Like, that's how you do it. But I don't think people necessarily understand how that works, because a lot of them are newer fans and they just don't get it. But yeah, it is pretty predictable. Just like on the original NXT, you'd have the champion lose and then they went up to the main roster. So I definitely see several people by next year, especially around a Royal Rumble and whatnot. They'll be on the Royal Rumble for sure, I would say. I think a couple will be on Raw or SmackDown pretty soon. I think Trick Williams might have a chance if he loses the title anytime soon, which I'll cover that match. Tony D'Angelo's been there for a while. I think he could come up. I think some of the women all have a chance to come up, just depending on what they're doing. Yeah, I think Obafemi, he's looking pretty decent for sure. They might want to keep him down there and really give him a long title reign again, or he might just go up. Like, he definitely looks like, he looks fantastic. Like, the dude is huge and he's athletic. He's looking like a dang, type of Brock Lesnar, Samoa Joe, like, looking pretty good, like a good style. He was jumping over people and throwing people through tables and all that. Like, it was pretty good. I've seen some of the highlights. So yeah, I was really liking what they were doing with him there. And also, I think I covered everything really there. Ethan Page, I think, also has a chance of going up. He's been a veteran for a long time. I hadn't really seen him. I think his promo segments and whatnot are actually surprisingly decent, and I hope people give that a chance, because if you're just gonna be negative about it and whatnot, and you're like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like it, well, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're giving you something to like, so anywho. We had the Obafemi versus Tony D'Angelo match. So the story was, I've seen a couple segments where Obafemi's kind of mouthing off to Tony D'Angelo's female, like, helper or whatever, the girl in the group or whatever, Adriana Rizzo, just kind of mouthing her and whatnot, making him look like a heel. And yeah, I'm a real big fan of the whole building up somebody to make them actually look like a heel. It's really lost for the most part. Like, most heels are just like, I don't want to say certain people have done it wrong or whatever. I think a lot of them just do what they're told and whatnot, but a lot of them just can't be top heels anymore. I mean, Gunther kind of, excuse me, he more or less is like one of the most stereotypical heel type people. I think he's all right. Like, he's doing all right. I think that you got to build up matches for him and so forth. And I think there's a lot of matches he hasn't done yet. And especially since he's been heel, he's not really been able to face against, like a Roman Reigns, Bronson Reed. I think that could be a good match. I don't want to go too off topic, but, any of the heel guys, that they've been really using in the last year, they're not going to do that and switch him up. I really hope he stays heel. I think he's great as a heel, as opposed to just turning him face because everyone likes him and he's a good wrestler, that kind of thing. You can't just do that because you're hurting your own product. So, I mean, yeah, it was a little off topic, but it all kind of connects as well. Also, I think Gunther versus Braun Breaker is definitely a match they can build up to at some point. I mean, they've already tried turn Braun Breaker face once, more or less, and they turned him right back, so to speak. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it a full face turn, but he was making it seem like he was trying to be respectful to Jey Uso. Then he turned and speared him and all that, and then they're doing the whole Xavier Woods and Karrion Kross and Miz and all this storyline. It's like they're all intersecting. So I like that idea in a sense. I think there's something to it for sure, but we have to see what they end up doing for sure, to be fair. The next, full match was the Obafemi versus Tony D'Angelo. And more or less, the storyline, I went on a tangent, that not only is Obafemi looking a lot more like a heel, but he had a dominant title reign, and then he beat the record or whatever. So then as soon as he beat the record, they gave the title to Tony D'Angelo, which I don't really understand why they held off on Tony D'Angelo so long, because he had a match against Ilya Dragunov before he came to the main roster, which he's now injured because they're doing all these crazy moves and stuff. And ACL, that's generally from doing like jumps and stuff like that and landing improperly. So you got to be careful with that. You got to calm down on the jumping and all that. I mean, his finishing move is a flying forearm, so you could definitely see where that could happen. If he's taking all these moves from other people, it's very possible as well. So you gotta have good footwork, good balance for sure, and good strength. Yeah, I mean, Tony D'Angelo could have been the world champion, but they didn't give it to him, and whatever, I guess. Yeah, we have Tony D'Angelo going up against Obafemi, and Obafemi lost the title basically because of he did a roll up. That was the roll up win. He just got a random roll up win on a dominant champion, which was kind of silly. And then it was like, okay, maybe one time it's all right. And then so they set up this tables, ladders, and chairs type match. So I remember, like, in 2006, the tables, ladders, and chairs match with Edge and John Cena at Unforgiven. That's one of my favorite, like, storylines and builds and characters and matches, especially watching that back when I was much younger. And Edge was just such a dastardly type heel. Like, he was just so annoying and like such a jerk, so to speak, without swearing and whatnot. He was just a pain to a lot of people. So you just wanted to see him lose and whatnot. And he was in his own home country, and he beat John Cena in his hometown. He was in Toronto, Canada. So, they had to actually reach for the title. And that's what I really like about that, because, I mean, I understand if you're doing a hardcore match, it might not make a whole lot of sense if you just pull out a ladder, but, I mean, you could do it. Like, it could work fine if you just did it. So, I feel like people find that to be an excuse or whatever. They could justify it that way, but to me, I just don't see why they didn't do a ladder match, something where they just grab the belt. You grab the belt from up top, that's hanging, instead of pinning the guy again, or, so to speak. So, excuse me. So, more or less, they ended up doing like 3-on-1 against Obafemi, at least three or 4-on-1, just to give him the win. They hit the old Revival Shatter Machine, the elevated code breaker type thing. So yeah, they hit that and then pinned him, I do believe. And I'm just thinking to myself, why are you pinning this guy? Like, stop pinning this guy. I think that Obafemi is a guy who, whether they bring him up or not, at the Royal Rumble, he's going to be fantastic. Like, if they give him a spotlight like they did when they gave like Bianca Belair before she debuted. They gave her like 8 eliminations in 2020, I believe. I think it was, yeah, I believe it was 2020. She started early, just eliminated everyone. I'd like to see if Gunther's not still champion, put Obafemi in there and give him all the eliminations. I mean, I think even if Gunther's in the match, you just give them both, and those two guys can take out at least half of them. They can each get 7 to 8 eliminations. I think that's bare minimum. Each of them can get, one gets at least 8 and one gets at least 7. Maybe you could say that since you count themselves, they could each get like 7, 6 or 7, bare minimum. But yeah, I definitely think that would be a good idea. I think that could definitely work. I hope they do it. Yeah, I think that's a good idea for the future, and I hope it happens. So, from there, the other match was Trick Williams against Ethan Page. This was actually the last match of the night, I do believe. I know I'm out of order here, but I wanted to save the women's tag match for the final. And I also really enjoyed how they did the women's tag match. They had the champion in a tag match instead of just putting them in like a triple threat or a fatal 4 or something like that. It makes the most sense. You build up Cora Jade coming back and whatnot. Yeah, they need to do the tag match. And then you stalled another month or whatnot of programming, to the next title. The next, next live event, the premium live event, pay-per-view. I kind of lost track how many pay-per-views they do now. I don't know if they do them every 2 to 3 months now, or they do them every month. I remember they used to do them like every 3 to 4 months, and that kind of worked out pretty well. You're not forced to do stuff over and over again, or you're not to do stuff you don't necessarily need to do. So, yeah, pretty much, I didn't think there was much to it. I think Ethan Page was just supposed to go in there and have Trick Williams win again. Perfectly fine match. I like these guys. I think they're both going to be good. If they really book them well, I think, people give Triple H all this praise, which I think it's mostly overreaction and whatnot. They like his style better than the old style, and to each their own. But just because he gives them matches that are top tier and all that, but you got a whole roster. You got rosters full of people that don't have characters. They don't really wrestle well. They do like the punches in the ring, and they don't sell. They don't really have storylines, so to say. And if they are storylines, they're not really that interesting to me. Like, they got this Bloodline storyline